Okay, my friends, I'm back. Here we are now at the doctor's office. You remember this word chez? It's a preposition in French, and it shows location, like at the place of, the office of, the home of. So this is at the doctor's.
Chez le médecin.
This is at the doctor's office.
Un malade.
So malade means sick. We learned être malade is to be sick. Un malade, when we make it a noun this way, it means a patient. So this guy right here, he's a patient. We use the article un, and that turns us into a noun, a patient.
Le médecin.
And the doctor. Le médecin is the doctor.
Le médecin examine le malade.
So here's my verb, examine. It's an ER verb. It looks like what it means to examine. The doctor examines the patient. The doctor examines the patient. This list, by the way, is on page 11 in your packet. I know I have two lists for mots de there. One is an old list with some idiomatic expressions on the bottom. That's page 10. It says 166 on the left-hand bottom side. But we are actually filling in these words for the list mots de on page 11 in your packet. Okay, activity 6, vocabulaire mots de. That's where we should be. The doctor examines the patient.
Le malade ouvre la bouche.
This verb is ouvrir. You've probably seen it before. La porte est ouverte. It means to open. The patient opens his mouth. Now notice we say la bouche, the mouth. We don't say sa bouche for his mouth. We don't use the possessive adjective. We use the article because in French it's assumed that a patient is going to open his own mouth and nobody else's. So you just say the patient opens the mouth. Listen to it one more time.
Le malade ouvre la bouche.
Ouvre la bouche.
Le médecin examine la gorge du malade.
The doctor examines the throat of the patient. This du, if you'll recall, is a contraction of the words de and le. This is masculine, en malade. So my article would be le malade. But I want to say of the patient, so I need de and le become du. The doctor examines the throat of the patient.
Elle ausculte le malade.
All right, now this verb is very strange. It's an ER verb. It's ausculter, and it literally means to listen to with a stethoscope, that whole thing. She listens with a stethoscope to the patient, or she listens to the patient with a stethoscope. You have to write that whole thing. Stethoscope. S-T-E-T-H-O-S-C-O-P-E. Stethoscope.
Elle souffre, le pauvre.
So this verb souffre is kind of like ouvrir, to open. These are what I call ER wannabes, by the way. We're going to be learning about these verbs and how to conjugate them in this chapter. I call them ER wannabes because even though their infinitive form ends in IR, they act like ER verbs. Anyway, souffrir, as you can imagine, means to suffer. So he suffer, or he's suffering, the poor thing. He's suffering, the poor thing. Il souffre, le pauvre.
Où avez-vous mal?
And here she's using the verb avoir to ask where it hurts. Okay, where do you have pain? You'll notice that my verb here is in front of my subject and separated with a hyphen. This is called inversion. We use inversion in French to make questions. You don't have to use it, but it is very common in spoken French to invert the verb and the subject. Avez-vous? Où avez-vous mal? Where does it hurt?
Là.
And he just says there, là, there.
Le médecin parle.
So the doctor is speaking, and now what's going to happen is she's going to give him some commands, what we call the imperative. She's going to tell him what to do. This is the command form.
Ouvrez la bouche.
Open your mouth. And again, we're not saying your mouth. It says the mouth because it's assumed that she means his mouth. So open your mouth. And you'll see she's using the vous form. She's using the polite form because she's his doctor. But you'll notice that there's no subject here. There's just the verb and the object. Ouvrez la bouche. This is why we call it the imperative, the command form. We're going to be learning about that in this chapter too.
Toussez.
Now she's telling him to cough. She's just saying cough.
Respirez à fond.
Respirer is an ER verb. It means to breathe. And à fond means deeply. So she's saying breathe deeply. All right, so when you're sick and you go to the doctor, what do? They write you a prescription, and here's a prescription.
Une ordonnance.
Une ordonnance is a prescription.
Le médecin fait un diagnostic.
This is faire, our verb faire. It's being used here idiomatically. We usually say the doctor, makes. Faire is to do or to make. So the doctor makes a diagnosis. The doctor is making or makes a diagnosis. Present tense of faire.
Sébastien a une sinusite aiguë.
My verb in this sentence is avoir. Sébastien, that's this guy's name right here, has a sinus infection. Sinusite aiguë is a sinus infection. Sebastian has a sinus infection. Guess he's going to need some antibiotics.
Le médecin lui prescrit des antibiotiques.
So my verb in this sentence is prescrire, which is an RE verb, and it means to prescribe. That's what it looks like. We have some new pronouns in this chapter we're going to learn. We learned mots, nous, vous, le, la, les in chapter 1. Now we're going to learn lui and leur, which means to him, to her, and to them. And like mots, nous, vous, and le, la, les, they go right in front of the action verb in the sentence, the main verb in the sentence. So, le médecin lui prescrit des antibiotiques. The doctor prescribes him, and it's actually prescribed to him, some antibiotics. The doctor prescribes him some antibiotics.
Elle lui fait une ordonnance.
Here, faire is being used idiomatically. She makes him a prescription. We usually say a doctor writes a prescription. In France, we use the verb faire. We don't use the verb écrire to write. We say elle lui fait une ordonnance. She makes him a prescription. All right, now he's got his prescription in hand. First place he's going to stop before he goes home is the pharmacy.
À la pharmacie.
Pharmacy is feminine in French, the noun is feminine. And the way you can tell where a pharmacy is anywhere in France is you will see a big green cross, a sign of a big green cross sticking out from the building. That's to alert you that that's where the pharmacy is.
Le pharmacien.
This is the masculine form for pharmacist, le pharmacien.
Le pharmacien.
And this is the feminine form.
La pharmacienne.
Hear the difference?
Le pharmacien. La pharmacienne.
Okay, they both mean pharmacist. It's just we have a masculine form and a feminine form.
Qu'est-ce que la pharmacienne donne à Sébastien?
You recognize this verb, it's donner, to give. Qu'est-ce que, it's question word. It means what. Notice it doesn't say qu'est-ce que c'est. Qu'est-ce que c'est means what is it. This is just qu'est-ce que. This whole thing that I'm circling here means what. And est-ce que here in the middle, that's kind of like in English when we say does. You know, we like to add extra verbs. We say, what do you do? I am doing. So I guess you could say that this est-ce que here in French is the equivalent to us adding do. What does the pharmacist give to Sebastian? What does the pharmacist give to Sebastian? Qu'est-ce que la pharmacienne donne à Sébastien?
Elle lui donne des médicaments.
She gives him some medicine. And again, it's she gives to him. She gives him some medicine. So now he's got his medicine. And we call this,
Un comprimé.
and that's just the word for a pill. Un comprimé. A pill.
Avaler un comprimé.
Avaler is an ER verb, and it means to swallow. So to swallow a pill is what you want to write there, to swallow a pill.
Sébastien prend les médicaments.
Here's the verb prendre. You remember prendre, to take. We use it for different things, talking about food. So Sebastian takes the medicine is what you want to write there. Sebastian takes the medicine. All right, in our next sentence, our last one, this is an idiomatic expression. We're using the verb aller to say that he's doing better. So, you know when I say every day to you, bonjour tout le monde, ça va? I'm actually using the verb aller to find out how it's going. This is the same thing. Il va mieux means he's doing better, he's going better.
Il va mieux.
All right, mes amis, good job. Remember, you can always go back and listen to the video again. And I will see you next time. Don't forget to do your workbook pages. Au revoir.